In this video, you're going to learn how to create a simple work management system for your entire organization or for yourself, for your one-person show. I'm Alex, and I wanted to highlight a system that I often come in and implement for growing organizations looking to work more efficiently and work with a bit more clarity. I've recreated the foundation of that system here inside of ClickUp. We typically start with these building blocks that I will walk through for you here and adapt them to fit different offers and teams and company structures, etc. So I'll keep this pretty brief and high level. And if you have any questions along the way, don't hesitate to reach out and I'm happy to help. So we'll go ahead and start with this everything view here. This everything view is really going to be the highest level place to make decisions from. So this is where we either want to be making decisions for the entire team, or at least considering the entire team, looking at organization-wide bandwidth. Primarily this is where our project managers and project leaders, our operations managers are going to live, our account managers at times, and then leadership as well within the companies, just to see high-level view of company-wide ventures versus client or project specific, which we'll touch on as well. So here we have project status, we have tasks due over the next 7 days, our team calendar, and then our workload view. So just a really brief description of each. The product status is just a place, again, organization wide here, to see our status of all of our projects or all of our deliverables across the company in and of itself. I often like to, mainly show ones that are just in progress and then ones that we have, that are coming up next, but of course these can be adapted. And the task due next 7 days is really just, okay, what is on our plate immediately? What do we need to be focused on for the next week? And again, what are their statuses? What are their steps? And what are the progress of each of those steps? Then we have a simple team calendar, which I find helpful and can be color-coded by team member. And then we have the workload view here, which is extremely helpful. This is just me on the team here within my own company. But if you take on service work and you have to staff these projects and are working with contractors, it's or even just have a full-time team, but you need to understand how to divvy up the work. It's extremely helpful to have this workload view in order to just make team-wide decisions, whether you sign a new client and need to, figure out a start date or learn when somebody's able to take on certain work. Find this extremely helpful from the company level. And then within each of these filters, within each of these views, we can apply really whatever filter that we want and add to it or see a subset of the information. We're always able to filter down. And so that's kind of where the specificity comes in, but this is often where we start. Okay, so now we're going to get into each space. Let me go ahead and just move myself up here a little bit. So I'm going to get into each space, which is going to signify a client. So here we'll go to my company. Here now at the company view, we're able to get a little bit more, or the client view, whichever one makes more sense. We're able to get a little bit more granular in the information that we're seeing. So we still have project status as one of our pinned views, but of course this is going to be just for this specific client or just this specific company. And now we also have a dashboard for this specific client. And so when leadership or project management or whatever it may be, when they're wanting to make decisions from the client level, they're often going to be living in the project status and the dashboard views. And the dashboard is essentially just going to provide a summary of the status of the work in a few seconds. And then we utilize the folders here just to separate different types of work. Only one folder here just because we're only doing one project management project, but we can often have retainer work or one-off projects or whatever it may be. So let's go ahead and dive into one of these projects here. We have one for an operations infrastructure build out, which is one that I will often do for other organizations. I'm going to go ahead and move myself again. So you can see here, we have the project set up by phase, which you can turn on a toggle with milestones. There's often going to be, some kind of planning, some kind of execution. With system development, there's always going to be some adaptation as well. Then there's clear due dates and assignees and statuses. And this is kind of what's fueling those high level views that we just took a look at earlier. Here you see what slightly different views, but there's some similarities. So we have task view. This is really going to be where we get the work done, and is a pretty standard project management view where both the individual contributors as well as the project management teams can operate from this view. And then we have the assignee view here, which this is only for project management or someone who's going to be managing projects within the organization from a high level. And this view allows the project manager to mass assign one specific assignee to one delivery role. You can also set an automation to do this. However, in many organizations, multiple people are filling multiple roles. So we're going to have multiple project managers or multiple editors or whatever it may be. And so this is a way to mass assign different people within different projects. If you have only one project manager and only one of each role, this might not make the most sense as a place to start, but as you scale, it's a very scalable option. And then we have the dashboard view. And again, we're able to get even more granular. So this dashboard is only going to be telling us information from this specific project. And we're able to get a little bit more granular around what we're looking at. And, this view might not be as helpful if we're looking at, how many in progress tasks do we have company-wide. That just might not be the most helpful metric. But as we're looking at it per project, seeing where the assignee breakdown is and open tasks and just the work status breakdown makes a lot more sense. And then lastly, in terms of the foundation, I'm gonna move myself again. With every organization that I implement this in, and I think regardless of a new system, it's always helpful to have documentation attached to it. So I'll often build a best practices documentation, both for the team, so how are individual contributors supposed to use this, and then how is project leadership supposed to use this system, because they are two kind of separate paths. Although it's the same functionality, we don't really want the rest of our team to be thinking about how project management is working and vice versa. So I find it helpful to separate that out. But this is essentially an ongoing resource to not only train your team, your existing team, when you implement a system like this, but to slot into your employee handbook and to use for future employees who may come on. This can also should be a living and breathing document that's always being adapted and always, being changed as your company processes are evolving. And you can see I even added in want to add something to this document, and even added a little guidance around how to go about that, and encouraging folks to be thinking about, something is actually missing from this, or actually this should change, or whatever it may be. And then from here, you can see how we can make some adaptations. So maybe, if we have another client here, the Peacock, maybe this exact structure doesn't make sense, but we can utilize the same principles. So maybe we have one project for, retainer deliverables. Maybe we have a meeting notes doc that is shared with the client. And, maybe if we have an individual client, for instance, we even have a shared action items, project in between the client and the coach. And give the client autonomy. There's a lot of different little branches that we can add here, a lot of different levers to pull, but this is the base functionality and pieces of a simple work management system. Hope it was helpful. And again, if I can be of help, please don't hesitate to let me know.